I'm Staff Sergeant Adam Brenner, part of the 1st and the 201st Field Artillery out of the great state of West Virginia. It's a super cool feeling to see the tube recoil for the weapon to just go boom, everything's rocking and everyone's just in sync for the next round to go out of the tube. It's a great time. It's my house on tracks. It's where we live.
This is the M109 Paladin, the self-propelled 155mm howitzer the U.S. Army relies on today. The M109 family first entered service back in the 1960s, cutting its teeth in Vietnam. But the A7 isn't just a paint job on an old gun. It rides on a new chassis, a new engine, and an all-electric turret system, most of it shared with the Army's Bradley fighting vehicles to cut down on logistics and cost. All that added armor and machinery comes with weight. Fully loaded for combat, the A7 tips the scales at 84,000 pounds, 38 metric tons, roughly 10 tons heavier than the Paladin it replaced. Procured as a package with its dedicated ammunition carrier, the total program is valued at nearly $11 billion for under 700 vehicle sets. After the Army canceled 2 attempts to replace the Paladin outright, the Crusader program, and, more recently, the M1299. This is still the primary self-propelled howitzer in the U.S. arsenal. The Army projects it'll stay in the force for years to come. Modern warfare has changed. The war in Ukraine made that clear. Cheap, expendable drones, some costing just a few $100s, have become capable of hunting down multi-million-dollar weapons systems. A howitzer like this, parked in the open to fire, is exactly the kind of target they're built to find, which means the old advantages, mass and range, aren't enough anymore. The question now is whether the crew inside can get around downrange and get out faster than the enemy can react. In the years after the Cold War ended, and before Russia's invasion of Ukraine changed the picture again, the Army ran 2 Paladin variants side by side, the older A6 and the newer A7 phasing in to replace it. Both share the same crew, the same job, and mostly the same layout. So, to understand how this weapon actually works, it's worth starting with the A6.
This is the M109 A6 Paladin. It is a self-propelled artillery piece. The self-propelled means it can move under its own power instead of being towed by another vehicle. It has a 155mm cannon on it, complete with a muzzle brake at the end and a bore vac right in the middle. And that serves to collect the gas after the round is fired and then actually use that to assist with the recoil of the weapon. The suspension on this vehicle, it's the road wheels, and behind that there's road arms, and then torsion bars is what actually rides on it. So it's a rod of metal that actually twists, and that's what gives it a suspension instead of a normal leaf spring or a strut or a nitrogen-filled shock like the Striker. It actually provides a fairly comfortable ride and not too hard to change or diagnose when there's an issue. All right, here's where you put the fuel in. Storage for extra 50 caliber barrel, decon kit, water cans, Pioneer kit. Right up here is the commander's hatch, and right on the front of the commander's hatch is where the M250 caliber machine gun would be mounted. Back here we have the spades, and when they're going to be dug into a firing position for an extended period of time, they'll drop these and actually dig them into the dirt. Provides a more stable platform for shooting, slightly more accurate. On the back it has 2 bustle racks for storing extra gear and equipment. This side is very similar to the other side, except this has an escape hatch, a side escape hatch for the crew to get out in case of an emergency. And then up here is actually the hydraulic compartment where all the hydraulic tank, the motor, and the pump are. When the hydraulics operate, it's very noisy. We have to keep all those doors closed as often as we can. And then here's the driver's hatch. This is where the driver sits on the left side of the vehicle.
The Paladin runs on a 4-person crew, and every one of them has a narrow, specific job.
So the number one man is, he's usually the rank of E4 or below. He's fairly new to the gun, and his job is to prepare rounds for fire, get the proper round for the fire mission, and put the proper fuse on it. His job is also to load that round, and he's also the one to pull the lanyard to make the howitzer fire. The gunner is the verific for the chief of the gun. So what the gunner does is verifies that all the information the chief is reading is accurate and safe. The gunner also prepares the powder or charge for the fire mission that's going to be fired. The driver is the operator of the actual Paladin. He takes direction from the chief. There's an internal communication system where the chief and the driver could talk. The driver has to, be cognizant of, the size of the equipment that he's operating. He has to be very safe. And during fire missions, the driver takes direction from the chief as well, because the weapon system has to idle up in order to be able to complete fire missions. The crew chief, the howitzer section chief, he makes sure the whole section's in order. When he receives a fire mission, he has to verify all the data that comes down digitally is accurate and safe in order for the fire mission to be carried out successfully.
One upgrade crews noticed fast. The A7 replaced the old hydraulic turret drive with an all-electric system. The extra power that frees up doesn't just run the gun. It also keeps the crew compartment cooler.
So we have a microclimate conditioning system which helps with cleaning out the air inside the gun for chemical attacks, stuff like that, but we normally will use it for some air conditioning in this thing.
Before any of this happens with a live round in the tube, crews have to prove they can do it without one. At Fort Bliss, the 2nd of the 7th Field Artillery trains inside a Fire Support Combined Arms Tactical Trainer, a simulator built to replicate the inside of a Paladin down to the switch.
Today we're in the FSCAT simulator. It's a Paladin simulator designed for new section chiefs and for crew drills, 4 sections, to come in and actually load ammunition realistic to a real scenario.
Getting our crew drills down for number 1 man gunner, and also the chiefs are doing their jobs, kind of running us through fire missions and just giving us better training and knowledge on our jobs.
The Fire Support Combined Arms Tactical Trainer, or FSCAT, uses an actual howitzer turret. That allows the inside of the trainer cab to look like and operate the same as the M109 Paladin.
When you have a section that can come here and train realistically and build that cohesion and that team effort, it'll correlate more when we go into Table 5 and Table 6, and we actually have to dry fire and live fire as a team. I think we'll be a lot more proficient and work a lot better as a team.
That's Table 5, a dry fire certification. Get it wrong here, and a crew doesn't move on. Training at Fort Bliss, or certifying on a home firing point, is one kind of proof. The real test is running that same fire mission on someone else's continent under someone else's fire control system. The war in Ukraine may be reshaping how militaries think about artillery, but it hasn't pulled the U.S. Army and its NATO allies away from the Paladin. If anything, they're leaning on it more. Crews are training across multiple NATO member states, running live fire exercises side by side with allied forces, and learning to fire under someone else's command just as fast as their own. Crews have done exactly that, running this fire mission off Germany's fire direction control alongside Polish, Ukrainian, and Danish forces. Proof this decades-old platform can still slot into someone else's coalition fight without missing a step.
and I am a gunner on a M109 Alpha 7 Paladin. The importance of what we did today with shooting with the Germans is so that we know that if need be, anytime we need to work with a foreign army, we can get our guns up, we can shoot properly, we can get ourselves up with our fire direction control and shoot rounds as fast as possible, given any resources that are on hand.
That kind of adaptability answers one part of the relevance question. But there's a sharper test waiting once the round's already fired, because firing it is the easier half of the equation. The more dangerous moment comes right after. On today's battlefield, anything that stays parked in one spot gets found, whether by counter-battery radar or a drone circling overhead. The Paladin's answer to that has been part of its doctrine for years. Get into position, fire, and move again before anyone can trace the round back to where it came from. From a complete stop, it can be laying its gun and firing in under a minute.
Everybody yells fire mission. Your driver will then rev up the gun. The number one man will pick up the round, put it on the tray. It goes into the tube. The number one man will ram it with a hydraulic rammer. The gunner then will grab propellant, go in the tube behind the round, and then we'll close the breech. Chief will then lay the gun, tell the number one man to prime. Once they're primed, he'll tell him to hook up. He hooks up. One last verification, and he tells his number one man to stand by and fire. If it's just a one-round fire mission, they could get that out in like less than 60 seconds.
That speed isn't just about putting rounds downrange faster. It's what buys the crew the window to displace before whatever's watching can react. Whether that window is still wide enough against today's threats is the real test. None of this runs on hardware alone. It runs on crews who've stuck with it for years.
One round, do not load, shell, HE, fuse time, Mike 767 Alpha 1, fuse time.
It's offered me a bunch of unique experiences. I've worked with an exceptional group of people. It's family. It really is. The Alpha Battery and the West Virginia Guard, very tight-knit community. And these are the people, like, I'm not going to work when I go to drill or I go to AT. I'm going to spend time with my family. It's pretty great.
So is the Paladin still relevant? On speed, the answer looks like yes. Crews are still drilling to get a round out in under a minute. The same discipline that's kept this platform alive since Vietnam. On adaptability, it's yes again. A system built for the Cold War that still slots into a modern coalition fire mission without missing a step. But the newer problem is one that crew drilling alone doesn't solve. A howitzer still has to stop, sit exposed, and fire. And that's exactly what a few $100 drone is built to find. The Army is betting that speed and constant upgrades can outrun that problem faster than the threat evolves. Whether that bet holds is still being tested in real time on the battlefields where this exact question is being answered.